Wavesound Audiobooks presents Murder in the Pacific, Mount Yasur, written by Matt Francis, narrated by Lani Tupu. To my darling children, Sophie, Peter, and Hannah, with all my love. Chapter 1. Everyone was screaming and running. The young children were holding their mother's skirts or being dragged by the hand of their fathers or older siblings. The older mamas, often with little ones bouncing on their hips, were holding their long skirts so as not to trip, and the old men were trying to keep up with everyone. Sergeant George Long of the Vanuatu National Police was running too. He wasn't entirely sure why. He had 2 children in his arms. Minutes earlier, he had been walking around the tiny marketplace in the centre of Lenakal, the main town on the Vanuatu island of Tanna. It wasn't much of a market in terms of facilities or size. One open-sided roof area the size of half a tennis court. But the vegetables were plentiful, albeit all of the same limited variety. If someone wanted pumpkin or tomato, then they would be well looked after. But if they hoped for anything else, then it was going to be a disappointing shopping expedition. George hadn't gone to the market expecting to buy anything. He had just arrived from Vanuatu's capital city of Vila an hour earlier and was just waiting for his accommodation to be ready. The siren had started wailing as George was wandering from one pile of pumpkins and tomatoes to another pile of pumpkins and tomatoes, all of them tied up like little pyramids or mountains. A police car with lights flashing pulled up in front of the market on the road that ran past the wharf. 3 white Toyota Hilux pickup trucks followed. Before George could read the small logo on the yellow shirts of the dozen or so people who jumped from the 3 vehicles, George knew they were staff of an international aid agency. The cars were too new and clean to be locally owned. 2 staff from the aid agency immediately started yelling instructions into portable megaphones. Under the best circumstances, it was almost always impossible to make sense of anything that was being said when it was amplified through one of these conical loudspeakers. When 2 people were competing, it was audible, but utterly incomprehensible. Despite George's inability to understand what was being said, those around him immediately turned and started running in the opposite direction, away from the sea and towards a nearby hill behind the market. A young police officer and the yellow-shirted aid workers were now waving their arms, yelling at people to go as fast as they could. That is when the screaming started. George looked around. He estimated there were around 400 people now running towards the hill. The road that ran...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?